Sairam. So today we will take up one very important, very beautiful, very intriguing subject or a topic as a part of our general topic discussions that we do. What we The subject is very simple. The word is also very simple. The word which is non-existent in our chaotic life and world. The word is how to practice silence. How to be in a silent state. In order to know what is silence, how to be in a state of silence, what is silence, we need to know what is silence, what silence is all about. The primary perception or the first thought that crosses our mind when we talk about silence is it is abstinence of sound. When there is no sound, there is silence. But that is restricted to our indriyas or our sensory systems. We are talking about lack of sound is silence. That is the primary understanding of anybody, any common man, anybody, if you ask, that silence means lack of sound. But is it really that? Or is it only that? Yes and no. Is it really that? I would say lack of sound is also silence, but is not only the silence we are talking about. It's a very deep subject. And if we are talking about or taken up a subject like silence, it will be it will not be right if we don't mention the propagator or the preacher of silence, Sri Ramana Maharshi. Ramana Maharshi's, I'm sure all of us know who Ramana Maharshi is. So, Ramana Maharshi's, what he has left behind for the world are only two words. Just two things he said. In Tamil, he said, Nan yaru. Nan yaru means who am I? Ramana Maharshi was the best example of Advaita Siddhanta, Advaita philosophy, non-dualism. So he said only two things which are worthy of mulling over. First he said, Nanyar, who am I? Second he said, Sumayr, be quiet, be silent. Just two things. He explains the entire of Advaita philosophy in just these two words. Or the supreme secret of the world, or the supreme state a person can attain by practicing the yoga, by doing our sadhana, is silence. Now, Ramana, he said only two things. We know we are talking about who am I and be quiet. All your answers, all your queries gets answered when you are in a state of silence. Because Even in Sri Sai Satcharita, Baba has clearly said, Guru is not something who is going to teach you something new. You have the knowledge within you, and there is a muck which has covered that knowledge. Guru is someone who will come and clear that muck and make sure that you attain the Brahma Jnana. Guru is not something which is going to tell you something new. So how do we attain that? The path is of silence. Silence is the supreme. And even in our Saipanth, Shunya Kriya, the yoga that we follow, there are no mantras, there are no mudras, there are no specific asanas. We also go by this one primary question, which is who am I? And 5 sub-questions: where have I come from? Why am I here? What am I supposed to do? Whom do I belong to? And where am I going to go from here? These are the 5 sub-questions we have. But the primary question still remains is who am I? Finding an answer to that is the conclusion of our journey. And how do we do it? Is by being in a state of silence. So silence has a very deep spiritual significance and meaning. Coming to the physiological level, at physical level, we feel that lack of sound is silence. No. You stay in one room which is locked, completely insulated from sound outside. Lack of sound does not make it is a state of silence or practicing of silence. Sound is something which there is consistent. Sound is everywhere. Just because we don't hear the sound, there is, if you check your pulse, even when you are in absolute, let's say, solitude, and then there is no sound around, and then you are literally a hermit. But if you check your pulse, there is a pulse and there is a heart which is beating, and there is your inhalation, exhalation is all creating sound. Just because you don't hear that sound does not mean that there is silence. There is no silence in this world so long as we live in this sthula sharira. Just that we don't hear the sound decimals, some of them, most of them, which we don't hear, we feel is silence. Not that. Silence is much deeper. It has a much deeper meaning to it. This is only at the physical level. Sthula sharira. We are thinking about silence. Lack of sound. Attaining or being in a state of silence is moksha or nirvana. The first thing in this whole universe which was created or which manifested was sound. So there is nothing called a lack of sound or non-existence of sound. We just don't hear that decimal or that frequency of sound. But that is not the silence which the rishis have spoken about. The lack of sound is silence. Let us say, for example, we are Homo sapiens, human beings. We are in a state of absolute silence. There is no sound. Okay, let's agree and accept that. Okay, there is no sound, and we find that is silence. Fair enough. What about your thoughts? What about the chaos which is happening within you? What about your emotional ups and downs? When you attain a mastery on being a witness to the emotional, mental, psychological chaos which is within us, then you have attained silence, state of silence. You are in a state of silence. What Sri Ramana Maharshi said, Summaya, be quiet. That is being a state of silence. The Supreme Being, the Nirguna Nirakara Brahma, whom we talk about Saguna Sakara, form and attributes. Then Saguna Nirakara, all the attributes but no form. Then we talk about Nirguna Nirakara, no attributes, no form, no sound, no mantra, nothing, all absolute silence, just a state of witness. Or we call it as Satchit Ananda, Satchidananda. No thoughts, Nirvichar Samadhi, thoughtless awareness. Nirvikalpa Samadhi, desireless awareness. Away from all the chaos. Can we be in that state, remaining in this body? Yes. Can we practice being in a state of silence now, as in this lifetime, now, this very moment? Yes. What do we do? How do we do? How is it possible? Very simple. Follow what Sri Ramana Maharshi said. Sumaya. He just did not say that. There is a very deep meaning to what he said. When he said, be quiet, be away from the chaotic world, sound around us, thoughts, emotions. No, you can't. Because sound is everywhere. Silence is a state which you can attain only when you are thoughtless, when you have no emotions which is bothering you, no fear, no anxiety, no arishad vargas, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. None of them. Maya is not on you. Maya is not influencing your decisions. Only then we are in a state of silence. We have practiced silence. How do we do it? We are doing it. When we go through our process of our Kriya, our Shunya Kriya, we get into a state of witness. We withdraw from our Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira. After we balance our nadis, we withdraw from all those things. We remain at that state of witness. That is practicing of silence. That is the way we withdraw from the whole chaos within us, around us, and we are in a state of witness. We have no thoughts, emotions, desires. Even if they cross, because there is something which are not, where we have no control over. But we are in a state where we are a Sakshi Swarupi, in a state of witness. We witness everything, not getting involved with those thoughts or emotions or feelings or anything for that matter. You are at a state of witness. Sakshi. Nothing bothers you. No joy, no pain, no suffering, no opulence, no arishad vargas, the lust, the fury, the greed, the ego, jealousy, none of them. That is what Sri Ramana Maharshi meant when he said, Suma, these are all, you come out of the clutches of mind. You are not in a state where you are influenced by anything which is happening around you or within you, physically, mentally, emotionally. You are just a witness. You are one with the Supreme Consciousness, Advaita. So this is the right understanding of silence. Not just lack of sound is silence. Witnessing and distancing yourself from everything, including the sound around and within, thoughts within and influenced by your circumstances, emotions, feelings, fear, anxiety, lust, greed, all those things. When you are not influenced by all these things, you're not driven by Maya, you have attained the state of silence. You are out of this chaos of the world. Today, even in the name of spirituality, there's only chaos. What do we do? Me and Sri Madhusudan Navanitam, we go back about 2 decades and we are fellow yogis and we practice yoga together. Yet, besides that, we are very dear friends also. He is like a brother. All of us, we are one small Baba's family. But we were watching some of these Shivratri celebrations. And I was like, oh my God, dancing around, chaos everywhere. Lord Shiva is embodiments of silence. He is in an eternal state of meditation, eternally in a meditative state. Absolute propagator or embodiments of the true silence and the Jagran, the Shivratri celebrations, band, baja, literally a discotheque, whatever chaos. With due respects to people who do that, not judging anybody, but the fact is that Shivratri is a symbol, or symbolically the day of silence, the night of silence. Not getting into a slumber, no tamas, right? Not getting into your routine sleep and whatever, but being awake. Not just by keeping your eyes wide open, no. Being awake, state of awakened. You are an awakened person. And you are in deliberation with yourself. You are asking these universal questions, deep-rooted questions about who am I? You're listening to those kind of conversation. That kind of chintan and manthan is happening. You spend that whole night in absolute understanding, contemplation, discussion, deliberation about divine, not dancing around. Watching a movie, keeping yourself awake. Stupid. That's why one of the greatest philosophers our soil has seen, Sri Panduranga Shastri Athavaleji, Dadaji had said one word, who is the founder of Swadhyay movement, one of the greatest spiritual masters we have witnessed. He said, Dharma mein se buddhi chali gayi hai. In our rituals, the intellect has vanished. No understanding. Just monkeying around. There's no intellectual reasoning or understanding, if I may quote him. Yes. So this is all about state of silence. Thanks to one of you that point, like, let's have that discussion just day before yesterday. I think it was day before yesterday when you said that we'll have the discussion on silence. Hope this explanation is convincing. Now my few words are done. If you have any questions, you may please shoot.
Yes, it was convincing. As you said, it's basically about witnessing. So, I admit, tried that you said, so it was like a lot of agitation. When you say just witness, during meditation, witnessing was easier, but maybe it's since I'm practicing for quite some time. But when you're awake and trying to just, you rightly said, Ramana Maharshi just came across something about Ramana's. That's when we talked to him about silence.
Yeah, Ramana is the finest example of how to be in a state.
When you try to actually witness, it was like, it was very chaotic. Very chaotic.
No, that's because the chaotic state that you are in is not really you.
Is that my way?
It is only two things. Ramana's philosophy is very simple, very profound. Who am I? And be quiet. If you are in absolute silence, that is where you are. You are in a state where you are what you really are.
Wanted that.
But otherwise, state of witness is what you really are. You are just a sakshi.
That's true, but when you are dealing with day-to-day life and you say...
Day-to-day life, yes.
Quiet. Just be quiet. So when you are meditating, it makes sense. Yes, who am I? I know who am I. But day-to-day life, when you are actually interacting with people, just witness and just be quiet is like... It's just not...
See, all the philosophers, east, west, north, south, everywhere it is the same. They all are the same, right? Now I will quote my favorite doha of Sant Kabir Das, which I have quoted I don't know how many times. And there cannot be a better truth and deeper understanding of silence than that. Kabira khada bazaar mein mange sabki khair. Na kahu se dosti, na kahu se dar. Kabira is in the marketplace and he is wishing well and good for everybody. He has no friends, no enemies. Baba's life, Baba was always in a state of silence. He had no attachments. The Divine Master himself. But, yes, we are not him. Let's take a thread from Vishishtadvaita to become like him and become one with him. The state of witness and giving up the thought of doership, that I am the doer, withdrawing from the influence of Maya and the Arishad Vargas, you will attain that state. Silence is not something which you gain or which you are in. You are in a state. Silence is a state you are in. For that, it is two sides of a coin. Ramana's philosophy very clearly says, who am I? And be quiet. When you know who you are, you by default are in the state of silence. When you are in a state of silence, you know who you are. It's like number 8. It's just a loop. Who am I? Silence. Or silence and who am I? That's it. So, yes, it takes time. It takes sadhana. Not about time. It's sadhana. More and more we practice to be in a state of witness. We get deeper. We deal with the worldly life also in a very peaceful manner. Fear, anxiety, confusion, chaos, insecurities, attachments, everything vanishes. You only have one thing. Na kahu se dosti, na kahu se bair. Nobody is yours, nobody is, you are nobody's. But you have compassion for everybody, you wish well for everybody. What Sant Kabir Das says. That is few words about silence. Anybody else? One has any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I try to practice Bhaya, I always felt I've been taking advantage of Bhaya. Right from my patient to my children, right? We try to be very peaceful and calm, right? Sometimes I'm not there enough Bhaya. In patients or with my children, right? It's like sometimes you try to tell them in very nice, sweet ways, there's no listening and people I've been taken for a ride for granted, you know. Not only this, in my life I experienced both, but I felt this way. Like sometimes I feel him being good is not nice in school, This enchanted with the world in the sense by which I've been trying to a lot sometimes.
See, this is very beautifully explained in Sri Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna. Just because you are a sadhaka does not mean that you have distanced yourself from dharma. What is dharma? Is to be righteous. What is being righteous? Is to do what is right thing to be done at that moment or at every moment of our life. The problem is not in how you react. The world is chaotic, no doubt it is. There are all sorts of people, of course, and different circumstances. Each relationship is different. If we witness ourselves, as a father you're different, as a mother you're different, as a brother you're different, child you're different, you are different to your employees, you are different to your employers. There is a lot of difference in you. There are a lot of different characteristics, there are a lot of different ways of reactions. You won't react like the way you react with your child is not like the way you will react with your spouse or your parents or your siblings. Right? You don't speak the same language, you don't use the same tone. Right? So being dutiful at times when your children are not doing what they are supposed to do, that is your duty. That's a karma which you have to do. Not abstaining from that is also a adharma. But the problem arises when you get involved with it. When you identify yourself with that reaction or emotion. Let's say, for example, you're being very strict with your child. Or you're being very tactful in your business acumen. That's what you're supposed to be. But that's not what you are. Don't get involved with your reactions, your actions, or your emotions. That is exactly what in one doha Sant Kabir Das has said. Kabira khada bazaar mein mange sab ki hai, na kahu se dosti, na kahu se bair. Now let's talk about Sri Sainath Maharaj. Baba, in Shirdi, we all have read Sai Satcharita. He used to get sometimes very infuriating. He used to lose his temper. He used to be abusive. He has thanked people, delivered good amount of slaps. What was he that? Why millions and millions of people follow him today also? It was necessary to be done, but that's not him. That was the necessity of the time. That was his action and his reaction or his conduct was necessary for the benefit of that particular devotee or a disciple, or the circumstances which the group of disciples and devotees were in. But that's not him. He is always compassionate towards everybody. And his reactions are also coming out of his compassion for everybody, his love for everybody. That is what we have to practice. Be like your master, become one with your master. Their lives are the examples in itself. There's nothing which you have to look around or try to learn here and there. When we read the lives of our masters, that is enough. So, was Baba really furious, angry, lost his temper? No. He was a sthita prajna, eternally in a state of bliss and peace, like a depth of an ocean. But for the worldly needs, he used to react and act in a particular manner because that is what is necessary for the benefit of his devotees, his children, his disciples, his loved ones. So don't get disturbed with your acts or your deeds. Don't get involved with this. Be dutiful. Do the right thing. Follow the dharma. Do your karma. Don't get attached to it. That is being in a state of ignorance. That is being eternally in a state of silence. Right. Have I answered your question, Doctor?
Yes, Bhaiya. Dutiful without devotion. What is it?
Anybody else have any questions? No? So I love the silence. Thank you. So I'll just, we will continue the next thing. I'll just take a small break and then we'll continue with the next program in our agenda for today. Okay? Sarah.